So I've been listening to the new Kota The Friend Everything album, and I wanted to post some quick thoughts about it as I've never made my opinion of Kota's music publicly known. For those who don't know, I pretty much have always enjoyed what Kota's put out. His last few albums have been pretty entertaining to me, especially Photo, that in my opinion was the most thematic out of all the projects he's released so far. This one isn't that far off the mark either. First thing that struck me a lot with Kota's music is how heavily I felt influences or vibes from Mac Miller and Amine in the same person. This ability to almost musically articulate what it feels like to be laying in a hammock, swinging back and forth asleep underneath the shade of a tree. Most of the music has a really chill and laid back vibe to it. It's not too over the top. It's not too theatric. It's very content. In fact, if anything, Kota reminds me of a less expressive, less theatric Chance the Rapper. It's very apparent that Kota sees the value in being content. And as someone who's been in quarantine for a minute now, waiting for this whole thing to blow over, music like this has been very reflective of the lives most of us have been forced to live over the past few months. An album that's actually realistically reflective of the rapper's life is a little refreshing, and the record from start to finish is really consistent through and through. I like that it's clearly not trying so hard to prove itself to anyone or be accessible to every demographic. And we even have features from artists that aren't as mainstream, like a Joey Badass and a Boss on BQE. One of the few tracks on this album with a ton of rhythm and a ton of expression. Features from Hello O'Shea and Tobi Lou. Really smooth. It's almost like his voice is being lubricated by the beats. Beats that are very chill and laid back, something that you'd probably be able to search on YouTube for. It's bright, it's relaxing, it's chill, it's laid back, it's not doing too much, it's not trying to be too much. We also have features from actors and actresses on this record. An interlude over a guitar from Lupita Nyong'o's perspective, where she talks about the things that she values, where LAKEITH'S Stanfield gives a similar passage over another guitar talking about why life doesn't need to be so complicated and why having a good time and having fun with it should be prioritized while you do have this short life. Basically, I get the feeling from this album that Kota is trying just to illustrate why it's so important to have your own method and your own goals so that you don't get stressed out or complicate your road, adding any extra obstacles to your path because you feel you need to strive for this thing or attain this thing or this thing. That's kind of why the aesthetic of this album is so refreshing for me, because it's not trying to hit you over the head with anything too flashy or anything too braggadocious. It's just kind of there. That being the case, though, there is a lack of identity that I find with this project because of how chill it is. It feels like it has nothing to prove, but by the time we get to the end of the album, I'm wondering what I just listened to and why I needed to hear it from this person specifically. And maybe his point isn't that you need to hear it from him, but if you're going to spend 40 minutes on a record telling me about these things over a bunch of chill type beats, I don't really see the problem with kind of setting that stage so that you could talk to me more or talk to the listener more. Lyrically, I'm not really getting anything crazy on this album. I really don't have any quotables, no crazy lines, no schemes, no flows that are really intricate or developed to a very high or skillful degree. Energy on this album is really low tone as well, so when there is something that you may have heard that might have hit you, I don't really know how motivated you'd be to go check it out again, because most of the beats on this album can make the songs feel like you're just listening to one extended play. The instrumentals being so similar and his voice being so one note throughout the entire record, it feels like majority of it is one big song. I feel how soothing and just how complete as far as its sound and its design this album is. But there's no reason for me to listen to this when I could easily listen to something straight out of the Chicago scene from 5 to 6 years ago, from a No Name, from a Saba, from a Smino, from artists that are just much more expressive, whose ideas are much more fleshed out. I think he walks a really healthy line between braggadocio and lyrical, because I think people believe you either have to be on one side or the other, that you're immediately making lyrical hip-hop because your music doesn't have a bunch of braggadocio to it. And Kota's proven that you don't have to have either. You can just exist. And that's what this album feels like for me. It's really soothing, it's really smooth, but it kind of just exists. Nothing really setting it apart from the landscape in the underground scene or the mainstream. It's just kind of there. While I love what I feel to be relations to Mac Miller's aesthetic and Amine's voice, I just don't think they tie themselves tightly enough into the album for me to say it's that entertaining outside of the influences that I hear from it. I like where we're going with this album, how important being content truly is, but the album doesn't feel like it's striving for anything either. But I could still see someone really loving this album for its aesthetic and just how soothing it is, but outside of that, if you're looking for a little bit more than just something to play in the background, I don't really think it does too much. But that's just me. That's how I feel about it. If you feel different, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. I'm very interested to hear what you have to say about it. And that's how I feel. I'll see y'all next time. I'll see y'all in the next one, and I'm out. Peace.